Welcome into Outkick the Show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis, coming to you live from my humble abode at the beach down in Florida. Rosemary Beach is where I live now for part of the year in my lovely Florida home. Did I mention that I have a home in Florida now? Because I do. I hope all of you are having fantastic Tuesdays. My name is Clay Travis. This is Outkick the Show. We got a lot to run into. I want to tell you the rundown right now. Deadspin and Barstool are continuing their Cold War or open war. I want to break down what's going on right there, right now. NBA playoff boredom. I am so bored of the NBA playoffs. Am I alone? I got to tell you, Publix refuses to make a Summa Cum Laude cake because they believe that the word "cum" is a banned pornographic word. Rattlesnakes diving out of trees. Cougars killing men in Washington. Right now, the Animal Thunderdome is a total mess. We'll break it down for you. But I want to start off by telling you that if you right now are gambling on tonight's game, I got the Warriors. I'm on a roll right now. I own the NBA playoffs. Go to sportsbookreview.com. It's the only sporting event going on tonight. I think the Warriors are going to win by double digits. I'm taking my wife out for dinner on 30A. That's what I'm doing. I ain't even watching the whole game, but you know where to get the best numbers. It's sportsbookreview.com. You can see the banner right behind me here, sportsbookreview.com. The NBA playoffs are boring, but you know how you can save some money? A lot of you got credit card debt. My friend Ryan Kelly at The Home Loan Expert, he can take care of you. He can ensure that he is able to take care of you in the best possible manner. If you've got credit card debt and you own a home, you probably have some equity buildup if you've owned that home for a couple of years. You should never have credit card debt if you own a home. Refi now, wipe out all your credit card debt, make a smart financial decision. My guy Ryan Kelly can take care of you. I know how it is. Before I was rich, I was poor. You suddenly get an unexpected bill. Your car goes awry. Something happens in your health status. Everything goes onto the credit card. Even if you own a home, get hooked up now at thehomeloanexpert.com. Okay, I'm going to tell you this right now. If you say something negative about any of my advertisers, you're blocked and you're never allowed to return. All right? Because my advertisers, I want to say this. I will go to war for them. They back me, I back them. So if I happen to look over and you say anything that sounds like what a pussy would say that is a negative comment about any advertiser, even if it's just a tepid comment, then you're gone. You don't have the right to comment in the show. Clay Kyle will show up, and with his trained assassin bullets, he will wipe you out. So you will be gone forever. If you like Outkick, advertisers are a big part of why we're successful. If you enjoy consuming our free content, our free 3-hour morning radio show, our free afternoon show. If you enjoy any of that, then you, my friend, are partly being subsidized by advertisers. I've never charged you for an article in 15 years. If I look over, you are dead to me forever. Bye. I hope you enjoy your life of not being able to watch the show. Bang. You're dead. All right, let's dive into this. If you're not familiar, Deadspin hates me. Okay? Deadspin hates me. They've hated me for a long time. I think the reason why Deadspin hates me is because I'm the most successful person to ever work at Deadspin by far. There is nobody else who is even remotely close to as successful as me and have worked at Deadspin. When I left Deadspin, they tried to say your career is over. No one ever leaves here and goes on to better things. I not only have gone on to better things, I am worth more by myself than the entire Deadspin website is worth by itself with all of their writers rolled in together. So as a result, Deadspin has gone and turned into a website that attacks people who are more successful than they are. It's always been that, but it's become that on steroids as it's left behind its humor. And it's the kind of place where they tell you that you should go on co-ed bachelor parties. It is the far left wing of the far left wing sports universe in sports media. And so if you're not familiar with this, they've been going back and forth with Barstool for a while. Now, I have a good relationship with pretty much everybody at Barstool except for Portnoy, who I don't understand, and his crazy kind of obsession with me. But I have a good relationship, I think, with PFT, with Big Cat, with those guys. I think they do good work. You've heard me say nice things about them before. PFT, who I know personally, has always gone as an anonymous commenter as part of his joke, right? He is sort of a Colbert Report of sports, rapidly ridiculing from a satirical perspective the stupidity of much that goes on in the world of sports media. And for that, I think he does a good job, okay? I consider him to be really funny, probably the smartest guy that works at Barstool, obviously well-read. It's hard to consistently produce great satire, and he does it in the world of sports media. So I've been a fan. I am a fan. I think he does good work. Deadspin has been at war with Barstool, and I want to take a step back, and also I'll throw myself into it because Deadspin's been coming after me for years too. I'm not sure exactly what they want, okay? It would be one thing if Deadspin was trying to say, you should not be able to make a living doing what you do. And that seems to me to be what Deadspin is about now. If you're not familiar with Deadspin from the ancient days, when Will Leach founded this website back in 2004 or 2005, I left CBS Sports to go take over as an associate editor under AJ DeLorio at Deadspin. AJ would later become famous in the world of media because he would post the Hulk Hogan sex tape and end up bankrupting all of Gawker. Gawker would go bankrupt Hulk Hogan through his lawsuits. A great book. Peter Thiel, the founder of PayPal, who later made billions off of Facebook, he bankrupted Deadspin by funding the lawsuit from Hulk Hogan. It's a fascinating book. All right, it's a fascinating book, and I would encourage you guys to go check it out. All right, and when I was working at Deadspin, what attracted me to Deadspin was Deadspin punctured the extreme over-seriousness of sports. It initially was a fun-loving, satirical site that made fun of how self-serious athletes and media held themselves in the early days of the blogosphere. That's what attracted me to Deadspin. When I took the editor job there, it was that they were a voice of honesty in a sports wilderness that was all too fake and often corrupt, I thought. And so when I went there, it was a funny site. And I thought I would fit in well there. AJ DeLorio and I did not get along. I quit. He says he fired me. We had a head-to-head, and I was like, I don't need this anymore. I left. I went and wrote a book, and obviously I've had tremendous success since I left there and before I left there. It was only like a 6-month stop on my sojourn around the internet media. Over the past several years, Deadspin has started to attack me. And they've ripped me. I think they put me in a Klan hat. They regularly attack me. They regularly try to debase me in some way. Whatever. They can say whatever they want about me. But what is fascinating about this story to me is in its trajectory across the internet, Deadspin has become what it was initially founded to repudiate, which is a very self-serious sports media sort of purveyor whose goal has gone from lampooning excess and satirizing stupidity to turning into a moral police authority. And this is what I've seen a lot from sports media. Sports media has gone from a place that celebrates sports and sort of is a big tent that everybody is welcome in to this area now where everybody goes out there and they try and keep certain people and certain stories that they don't like or perspectives that they don't like from being successful. One of them is me. They regularly attack me. It has almost no impact on me at this point. The other one is Barstool. And in particular, if you haven't seen it this afternoon, they went after PFT commenter who has been writing as an anonymous guy who's been doing a podcast, an anonymous guy, and they outed him. Now, this is not a big deal. Most people already knew what PFT's commenter's real name was, and they thought it was funnier that he was going under a pseudonym and a pen name, whatever you want to call it. And the larger context that I would like to get here is pretty interesting, okay? What is the goal? Because, I mean, that when you write an article on the internet, or you write a series of articles like Deadspin has done about me and like they've just done about Barstool, what is your goal? Is your goal to try and in some way alter the trajectory of a company or a story? Like, Deadspin seems to be of the opinion that I shouldn't exist and places like Barstool should not exist, that we should not be able to exist. And I think this is a interesting question for everybody out there. It's one thing to criticize and rip and make fun of. Deadspin's goal seems to believe They seem to believe in a larger sense that a company like Barstool shouldn't be allowed to exist, or that a person like me should not be allowed to exist. And that is what I think is the biggest issue with a site like Deadspin these days. And it's what become all too common with what I'll call the far left wing in sports media. They don't say, I disagree with you. They say, I disagree with you, and you should not be should be allowed to exist anymore. And that's a big distinction between what somebody like me would say. Like, I rip some decisions that ESPN makes or that other people in sports media make. I don't think I've ever said, at least not in recent history, you shouldn't exist, right? I don't think I've ever said, like, I think Jemele Hill it's a joke that, for instance, she's getting an award for being a great journalist. I don't believe that Jemele Hill is good for ESPN. But I've never said about any of Jemele Hill's opinions, she deserves to be fired for that opinion. Never have. Never said that about anybody in the world of media. Now, I'll attack their opinion, and I'll debate whether or not they're good for sports media, whether they accurately reflect the population at large, all of those things. But that's an important distinction. The far left wing in sports media, which is represented by Deadspin, doesn't just argue they disagree with someone. They argue that you shouldn't exist anymore. And this is ironic because Deadspin has a history of doing things that are far worse than anything I've ever done or anything that anybody at Barstool has ever done. For instance, one, they posted a sex video at Gawker and got bankrupted. Two, and I think this is interesting, they posted the Aaron Andrews sex video and turns it into a major story. They published all of the stolen fappening photos that were a massive part of their audience. They have done all sorts of things that are far worse than anything that the people that they attack have ever done. And on top of that, and I think this is pretty interesting, they don't actually have a fan base. Did you notice recently when I got into it with them a couple of months ago over the story surrounding the Virginia Tech lacrosse team that they tried to turn into a major story? Do you remember that story? They accused the Virginia Tech women's lacrosse team of chanting racial slurs when they were singing along to the Freaky Friday song by Lil Dicky and Chris Brown. They accused the Virginia Tech women's lacrosse team of chanting racial slurs, and it turned into a massive story. And nobody actually went into it and looked at it and say, wait a minute, were they chanting racial slurs or were they singing along to one of the most popular rap songs in America right now? And frankly, this story continues to evolve. Did you see just down the road from me where I am in Florida at the Hangout in South Alabama, Kendrick Lamar was performing, pulled a white girl up on stage, asked her if she knew the lyrics to his rap songs really well, said, okay, I'm going to let you rap along with me. And then when she said the lyrics to his rap song, he shamed her, put her on the internet, and it's turned into a huge controversy. My position on this is straightforward. Context matters. If you are a rapper and you make money off of selling lyrics to your fans, you can't argue over who and who not can say the lyrics to your rap song. If you are selling the music, this is my opinion, then you are obligated to stand behind your lyrics, right? So I went on Deadspin and I attacked them, and they came back at me and they're like, oh, you know, like whatever. They always do. And I think this is a fascinating moment in modern internet culture because Deadspin basically exists now. And what I saw was so interesting about that was they have no fan base. Guys, what I believe matters in America today is less about your total audience and more about your devoted audience. And you can criticize me, you can criticize Barstool. I don't think there's anybody out there that would argue, oh, Clay Travis doesn't have a fan base. It used to be when I first started, oh, Clay Travis sucks, he'll never have a fan base. That was what critics would say about me. In fact, I didn't even have critics. I had 0 readers. I had nobody paying attention to anything that I was going to say. At some point, Deadspin has become incredibly troubled by the fact that their website has become irrelevant, but for when they make attacks on people. And people like me have grown into massive fan bases. So what you can see on social media is the degree to which they don't have a fan base, and they basically now just lash out at people and they argue that they shouldn't exist. I don't really understand it. Again, we have moved from an era, and this is important to understand in the far left wing, all right, where we have moved from an era where you can disagree with someone reasonably, And now when people disagree, they say, not only do I disagree with you, but you shouldn't have the right to your opinion. I'm going to attack you. I'm going to attack your advertisers. I'm going to ask why you are employed by this group or this group of people, and also ask you to stand for everything that everybody else who's ever been an employee at your organization is. And so I think that Deadspin, this is the last moments of Deadspin as a viable entity. They are bringing identity politics, I think it's well said, to the internet, and arguing that if you take a particular side or you make an argument that they disagree with, that you shouldn't be able to exist. And I think as a First Amendment absolutist, this is troubling. I write a lot about this in my new book that's coming out in September. It is the fact that we have entered into such an artificial reality in the world of sports that Deadspin has become what they hate. And I would argue this. I would argue that a site like ESPN has actually made a bad decision. And Jason Whitlock is pretty good at perceptive at making this argument. He's written it in the pages of the Wall Street Journal. Instead of being unique and original, ESPN started worrying about what was going to be written about them at Deadspin. And they started to do everything that Deadspin wanted, and as a result, their audience is cratered. Instead of appealing to regular guy sports fans, which I think I appeal to, which certainly Barstool appeals to, we're different organizations, different entities, different people, but I think we have a certain overlap in regular guy and girl audience. They have gone after the far left-wing sports fan, which doesn't really exist. I always say this, go look at who protested on behalf of Colin Kaepernick. Those people were not actually NFL fans. They weren't waking up to watch NFL football. They weren't going to NFL football games. They were political activists who were using Colin Kaepernick to try and advocate for a far left-wing agenda that happened to overlap with sports. And the problem that I think many sports organizations have gotten into is they have allowed a terribly vocal minority on social media to dictate the decisions that they make. And as a result, ESPN has gone off the face of the planet, and they're putting on all sorts of ridiculous shows because they're not judging their audience based on the real world. They're judging it based on a limited number of people who are active on Twitter. And I'll tell you this, and I said this in the book, if you have not been in the center of a media hurricane before, it can be overwhelming to suddenly get 100 or 200 or 1,000 or 5,000 mentions rolling into your Twitter feed of people saying you're an awful human being, that you should die, that you have no right to have the opinion that you have. This happens to me probably every 2 or 3 months. A different group gets triggered. They come after me on Twitter. I live in those media hurricanes now, so they don't impact me. But I think your average brand does not live there, and they panic. And what you need to keep in mind is that this is one of the things that I find most fascinating about situations like these. You can't allow those people to actually dictate your opinion making. You have to stay the course, and you have to trust what you are doing. I think attacking somebody because of who they work for is one of the lamest things you can do. And I think, again, the next step, and that's what they did with PFT Commenter at Deadspin, I think the next step is asking the question, okay, Deadspin, what do you believe? Should Clay Travis not be allowed to exist? Should Barstool Sports not be allowed to exist? What's the logical extension of your argument about us, about anybody that you disagree with? Jason Whitlock. They've gone after Jason Whitlock. Should these people not be allowed to exist? Because that's the argument they're making when you follow it to its logical extension. And that's troubling because, again, and people are starting to see this, and I say I've had my red pill moment. The far left wing is not okay with debating. They don't believe that your argument should even be capable of being made. They don't attack your argument. They attack you directly and try to silence you. Kanye just saw this. You can't have an opinion that a certain segment of the population on the far left disagrees with. You can't do it. And they believe that only their opinion should exist, and that's troubling to me. And frankly, it's why Donald Trump won, because there are a lot of reasonable people out there who voted for Donald Trump that don't agree with everything Donald Trump says, but they are so troubled by the stultifying nature of our national discourse now, and by the fact that you can only have certain opinions and other ones you can't have. I'm fired up about this. This is something that matters to me. I'm glad to see the Deadspins of the world starting to lose their audience, but I think we have to stop policing speech in this country. We have to stop with the idea of there are appropriate and inappropriate things to say. Granted, there are ridiculous things that can be said, and certainly you should have consequences. First Amendment doesn't mean you have freedom from consequences, but we got to stop today at this time in the world of sports politicizing every single issue. I thought it was encouraging. Again, my book comes out in September and argues this in great detail, but I thought it was encouraging when we got the Nashville Predators issue. I asked the poll, should a pro sports franchise endorse a political candidate? 96% of you said no. 96% of you. I think I am with the vast majority of reasonable people in the country, and I think that small minority of 5 or 10%, whatever small minority it is, which believes that far left-wing sports media is a thing, has been vastly oversampled on Twitter. And worst of all, they have so scared everyone else from sharing their opinions that they've tried to stamp out all different thought. And I think the success of people like me is a function of the reasonable people in America standing up, the rational majority, and saying, go fuck yourselves. You don't have the right to police speech. That's the truth. And so anyway, Deadspin going after PFT commenter is, I think, the latest in a long line of culture wars. To the extent that I pick sides, I am anti everything that Deadspin stands for. I don't have a problem at all with the guys at Barstool. I thought Portnoy thought that our feud was a fun game. Evidently, he legitimately doesn't like me. And that's his right. Everybody doesn't like me, even though my mom says I'm the greatest person on earth. But I legitimately have no issue with anybody at Barstool. I think Deadspin and what they represent is very frequently the worst of sports media. I can't say that in any way about Barstool. So on that side, in that argument, I'm going to be with Barstool 100 times out of 100. All right, am I the only person out there who is just thoroughly bored with the NBA playoffs? I'm not anti-NBA playoffs guy. I understand that inevitably when you say anything negative about the NBA, that there's a certain cadre of the population out there that just hates basketball or hates the NBA. I have been for a long time a huge NBA playoff fan. I love it because there's nothing else going on when it comes to the middle of the NBA playoff season. I want it to be good. I want it to be entertaining. I want there to be something fun to talk about on the morning after NBA games. This morning, driving in to do my show, I was like, I have nothing that I care about saying about the NBA that hasn't been said a billion times before. And I'm going to watch some of Game 4 tonight. I feel like the Warriors are going to completely destroy the Rockets again tonight. And then they're going to be up 3-1, and there's going to be nothing at all interesting to say. And I have said this for a long time. I think the NBA has major issues in front of it right now because there are 6 sports that people care about every single year. 6 sports that people care about every single year. They care about the college football, basketball, March Madness, care about college football, NFL, NBA, NHL, and Major League Baseball. I'm not willing to put MLS in there. Obviously, a lot of people are going to care about the World Cup this year. I'm telling you right now, of those 6 sports, there is no certainty who's going to win the championship when their playoffs start, except for in the NBA. The other 5 sports are insanely entertaining. Golf's a little bit different because it's just a series of majors. The other 6 sports are insanely entertaining. You don't know who's going to win a championship. The NBA, you get to the playoffs, there's 2 or 3 teams who can win. And I want so much for there to be interesting stories coming out of the NBA. I find it insufferably boring. Moreover, we're going to get probably now, for the 4th straight year, LeBron James against the Golden State Warriors. And frankly, there's nothing else to say about LeBron versus the Golden State Warriors. It's not going to be a competitive series, barring injury on the Warriors side. There's nothing at all that hasn't been said in the previous 3 years. I just don't know what else is left to discuss. And I'm just over it. I wish they would do something else more interesting with the NBA. But I've got the whole month of June to talk. I got the whole month of July to talk. I got the whole month of August to talk. I want things to happen before football season comes back. And the NBA typically can be a window to allow that. Doesn't happen. All right. So that is unfortunate. I don't know if you guys saw this. Let's have some fun. A couple of ridiculous stories. There was a Publix in South Carolina. Kid graduated with a 3.8. That counts him as a Summa Cum Laude graduate. I am a Summa Cum Laude, like double or triple graduate. I can't keep up with all my degrees. And I think most reasonable people understand that Summa Cum Laude is Latin, and it basically means with most honors, right? Publix did not allow the mom to buy a cake that said Summa Cum Laude because cum, they were convinced, was a bad word. Now, I don't know who was in charge of putting the icing on this Publix cake, but they got to be watching so many different porno movies, and I'm a little bit nervous about what all the ingredients in that icing were, to be honest. Because if you see Summa Cum Laude, and the first thing that you think is of coming, C-U-M, you got way too much porn on the brain. I ain't letting you ice my cake or even let you anywhere near my cake because that cake is being made near groin level. I don't know what you've done to that cake before I buy it. I am nervous about what is inside that icing. And this is just evidence, I think, of how stupid our culture has become. It's almost like Starbucks. We're in a culture now where when you make one decision to make somebody happy, another part erupts, right? This is like Starbucks. They had one stupid manager who evidently decided to arrest 2 black guys in Philadelphia because of an idiotic decision. Instead of saying, oh, we employed one dumb person and we are firing that person, Starbucks decided they were going to change the entire culture of their company. And so now they say you don't have to buy anything at Starbucks to use the bathroom. You don't have to buy anything to go into Starbucks and hang out. So basically they have guaranteed now that their place is the equivalent of the library, the public library. Homeless people can just go in there and hang out all day long. This is a great example to me of the modern culture that we find ourselves in. Instead of relying on good decisions having been made over the course of decades, you react to a social media controversy. You try and solve that even though it's not a real issue. You know what you do? You fire the racist manager if you got one, apologize, and move on. You don't change your entire policy. You don't suddenly allow your bathrooms to be wide open for everybody to use. And as a result, it's a total mess. Starbucks is overreacted, and this is what I argue in the book too. Corporations drastically overreact to any kind of social media controversy. Finally, I don't know about you, but I heard this story out of South Carolina and I was terrified. A guy was in a kayak in South Carolina and a rattlesnake fell out of the kayak, fell out of the tree, landed in the kayak, bit this guy twice, and he's now in intensive care. And what I am so blown away by here is, and so fascinated by, is this crazy story, all right? This crazy story in general. When and how did rattlesnakes start diving into kayaks? How did that come to be? How did it come to be that now we have to be in a kayak going underneath a tree and worry about a rattlesnake throwing itself down on top of us? I have so many questions about this. Did the rattlesnake just happen to fall at the exact moment that a kayak was going underneath the tree, or was this a total accident? I have no idea. I have no earthly idea. But this is terrifying to me if the rattlesnake was attempting to attack the man and just abandoned the tree and landed right on the guy and bit him twice. I am telling you right now, if you've got to look up to avoid rattlesnakes falling out of trees to jump on top of you, this is peak animal thunderdome. Because I hate rattlesnakes more than just about anything. I hate snakes. I know you're not supposed to be an ist. I'm a snakeist. I hate fucking snakes. I don't like any of them. I don't want to be near any of them. I don't trust any of them. I'm anti-snake. If rattlesnakes are just diving on kayakers now, this is trouble. Final story. Guy went mountain biking with his buddy in Washington State. While they're mountain biking, they get attacked by a cougar, and not the good kind of cougar. Not like a 40-something woman or 50-something-year-old woman out at the bar who's divorced and is trying to sleep with you. An actual cougar, a mountain lion. They are on their bikes, and I got to tell you, if you are out bicycling, mountain biking, and one of you gets attacked by a cougar, you can't leave your buddy behind. So one of the guys gets attacked by a cougar. The other guy takes off on his mountain bike, leaves his buddy fighting the cougar by himself, and I'll be damned if the cougar doesn't kill the guy. I think the cougar would not have been able to kill both of those people. I am going on the record right now. If you ever attack somebody that I am with, I am going to die fighting that animal alongside of you. After doing all the Animal Thunderdome and everything else, I am not going to allow one man to be left behind. Now, I don't blame my wife if she takes off and she leaves me behind, although I don't think she should do it. But this SOB was out mountain biking with one other guy, and he ran when the mountain lion attacked, and the mountain lion killed his buddy. Now, I don't know how you get out of bed the next day. I don't know how you ever face anybody you're friends with again if you allow your buddy to be killed and eaten by a mountain lion. Now, if it's a snake, all bets might be off. I'm not going to fight you with a snake because I don't think the snake could kill both of us. Like, you're kind of on your own with snakes. I'm not going to get out and go chase down the rattlesnake, but I will throw you on my shoulder and carry you out like it's Vietnam and like we just got shot at in the jungles over there. But I got to tell you right now, if you are out with a buddy or a girlfriend and you get attacked by an animal, you either both die or you both live. There's none of this fleeing and being the savior here. If a bear comes at you, you stay and you fight the bear to the bitter end. If a alligator attacks you, you go down with the fight to the alligator, you fight to the bitter end. I'm telling you right now, if you are mountain biking and a cat, a mountain lion attacks you, you go down all the way. It's not all talk either. I will never leave another man or woman behind as long as they're good friends. Now, if it's a stranger, I'm not going to be involved. But I am going down with them or we're both surviving together. Got to go for the eyes. It's a great advice. Anytime you fight an animal, you try to go with the eyes. Gouge them. I'm telling you, it's the way to go. All right. I love all of you guys. Share the show if you enjoyed it. I am Clay Travis. This has been Outkick the Show. Go get a mortgage at thehomeloanexpert.com, especially if you have credit card debt and you need to wipe it out. And if you're gambling on tonight's game, I got the Warriors. I'm not going to watch it. I'm going to go eat and drink with my wife. We're going out for dinner here in Florida. I love all of you. Even with a shark, I would fight. Every animal, I would fight. This has been Outkick the coverage. DBAP boys and girls, don't be a pussy and read Deadspin. Read people who aren't pussies, like me, or frankly, the guys at Barstool. Love you. I'm out. This has been Outkick the Show.